Good morning, church. My name is Baron Brock, and I'm going to be doing one of the morning devotionals for you guys. I'm super excited to jump in. We're going to be in Mark 8, starting in verse 16. Just to give you guys a little bit of context of what's going on here, because we're going to kind of jump right into the middle of a thought. The feeding of the 4,000 has just happened, and then directly after that, the Pharisees ask for a sign from Jesus. And Jesus, kind of knowing their heart, he does not give them a sign, as they have plenty of signs that they could have seen. Now they move into being on the boat, and the disciples have forgotten to bring any of the bread with them from the feeding of the 4,000. Jesus starts talking about something else, and they kind of switch gears to that. And so Jesus now switches gears himself to address that conversation. We'll start in verse 16. And they reasoned among themselves, saying, "It is because we have no bread." So Jesus was talking about another subject, and then they're sitting here thinking about, man, we don't have any bread. We left the bread. We didn't bring it on the boat, which obviously I understand. You're worried about your snacks, what you're going to eat, especially if you're a dude. Hey, I want to eat, right? But they're not really paying attention to what Jesus is actually wanting to communicate or talk to them about at all. And they're actually focusing on a very worldly, circumstantial thing. And especially in light of everything that just happened, this is kind of interesting. And Jesus chooses to switch gears and kind of address this mindset. He says in 17, "But Jesus, being aware of it, said to them, 'Why do you reason because you have no bread? Do you not yet perceive nor understand? Is your heart still hardened? Having eyes, do you not see? And having ears, do you not hear? And do you not remember? When I broke the 5 loaves for the 5,000, how many baskets full of fragments did you take up?' They said to him, 12. Also, when I broke up the 7 for the 4,000, how many large baskets full of fragments did you take up? And they said, 7. So he said to them, 'How is it that you do not understand?'" So, kind of breaking this down, Jesus is getting on their level as they're worried about physical things. Okay, and he asks some probing questions. He says, "Why do you reason because you have no bread?" Obviously, this is a leading question that's leading us to something deeper going on. Jesus follows it up with, "Do you not yet perceive or understand?" Right? Kind of interesting. And then he says, "Is your heart still hardened?" I kind of want to make a note of that. This is the 12 who are with Jesus Christ. They're around him every day. And yet it seems that there's kind of a moment of hardness in their heart, and I'll tackle that in a bit. But, that's a big statement. And then he asks, "Having eyes, do you not see? And having ears, do you not hear?" And then he says, "And do you not remember?" So then we kind of get to the root of it, and what are they not remembering? And he goes on to explain how he provided bread with the feeding of the 4,000 and the feeding of the 5,000, and they don't even remember that. And they're not taking that into account at all with this issue of them not having any bread on the boat. So Christ is kind of addressing them and saying, look, this is a physical problem. I get that. I want to talk about spiritual things, but we're over here. And yet you're completely forgetting how I've provided in the past, how I've been faithful in the past. When he says ears to hear and eyes to see, this is a reference back to Deuteronomy 29. Moses is commanded by the Lord to say a similar thing to the Israelites, as he's done all the miracles with them, bringing them through the desert and providing for them for all that time, and they've really kind of seemingly forgotten the Lord's faithfulness in that. So Jesus is referencing back to that when he's talking to the disciples. And so he's basically saying, look, you've seen how I've provided in the past, and here now you're lacking faith, basically, and you're ignoring all this work that I've done previously in your life. You have eyes, but they seemingly don't see, right? You have ears, you were there, but they are not hearing. And ultimately, you have a hard heart. And we need to check ourselves for this same situation. We can have eyes that can't see, ears that can't hear, and even at times a level of hardness in our heart as Christians, right? And you might ask, how? How is that possible? And I'll share a personal example that I'm kind of in the middle of actually right now. So I'm making a lot of big purchases. I'm getting ready to buy my house, using a lot of my savings for that. It's fixer-upper, so I know there's going to be a lot of money put into it. Interestingly enough, I have a lot of money in a CD, but that money doesn't mature until after I buy the house, so that's kind of interesting. Didn't plan on that. On top of that, found out we actually owe on our taxes this year. That was an interesting surprise. Found out that yesterday. And then even more so, we really need to buy a truck so that we can do some of these home renovations. And needless to say, all this is piling on. And for me personally, there's a lot of room to look at physical needs and then try to solve those physical needs myself. And in some sense, I'm saying, man, I forgot to bring any bread on the boat, right? And in the same way as the disciples, if I forget about Christ's faithfulness, if I forget about, even if there's no miracles maybe in your own life, you're new in your faith, you look at the scripture and you see Christ's faithfulness all throughout scripture, and I'm choosing to ignore that and focus on my situation instead of focus on the Lord and what he has done and what he can do. My heart is hard, and if there's anything that has gone on in my life before this, I have eyes that can't see and I have ears that can't hear. If I've seen the Lord's faithfulness in the past and I'm just choosing to ignore it now. Now clearly there's situations where we have to go through trials, we have to go through a season of lack, but Christ is always faithful even in those situations. If the bottom fell out for me, Christ would still be there, right? And still providing what I need, even if it's maybe not what I want. So I want to encourage you with that today. The Lord is faithful. Don't have a hard heart. Don't forget what he has done in Scripture and what he's done in the past in your life. Hope it encouraged you.